When my brother Norman's wedding invitation arrived in the mail, I stared at the heavy cream cardstock for several minutes before opening it. The elegant calligraphy spelling out my name, Miss Laurel Whitman, felt oddly formal coming from the same person who still occasionally texted me memes at 3 a.m., with nothing but a string of laughing emojis. Norman and I had always been close despite our 5-year age gap. Our parents' divorce when he was 12 and I was 17 had only strengthened our bond, while our mother retreated into work and our father started a new family across the country. Norman and I became each other's constant. I'd rearranged my college plans to stay close to home, checking homework and attending parent-teacher conferences when mom was too busy. Later, when I started my physical therapy practice, Norman would stop by with coffee just to chat about his classes or latest girlfriend. Until Brielle. They'd met at a charity gala 18 months ago, Norman there representing his architecture firm, Brielle as the event coordinator. According to Norman, it had been cosmic. According to our mother, it had been convenient given Brielle's family connections in real estate development. According to me, well, I had reservations I'd kept mostly to myself. I ran my finger over the embossed names. Norman Whitman and Brielle Morgan request the honor of your presence ... double quotes. It was happening. My little brother was getting married. My phone buzzed with a text from Norman. Did you get it? Just opened it. Very fancy, I replied. Brielle knows people in the stationery business. Listen, can you come over tonight? I need to ask you something important. We arranged to meet at his condo after I finished with my last patient. Throughout the day I found myself wondering what he wanted to discuss. Best man speech advice? Wedding registry suggestions? Brielle had made it clear early in their relationship that my input on their life together was neither needed nor wanted. Norman opened his door with a bear hug that lifted me off my feet, a habit from when he finally outgrew me at 16. At 30 he still had the enthusiastic energy that had simultaneously endeared him to and exasperated our teachers. Beer or wine? He called over his shoulder, heading to the kitchen. Wine, please. Long day of rotator cuff injuries. I settled on the leather sectional that dominated his living room, noting how the space had changed since Brielle entered his life. Gone were the mismatched furniture and architectural magazines. Everything now coordinated in shades of gray and blue, with carefully arranged decorative objects that served no purpose. Norman returned with 2 glasses of wine, sitting beside me with an expression I recognized from childhood, the face he made when he had something important but potentially controversial to say. So, he began. I have a huge favor to ask. I'm not giving a toast that includes the story about you getting stuck in the chimney. Pretending to be Santa, I said, taking a sip of wine. Though it would be hilarious. He laughed. No, it's actually, well, kind of a big deal. I want you to be my best person. I nearly choked. You're what? Best person. Like best man, but ... you, my best sister. He grinned. You've always been my person, Laurel. The one who showed up no matter what. It wouldn't feel right having anyone else standing next to me. Emotion welled up unexpectedly. Despite our closeness, Norman had never been particularly sentimental. What about your college roommates? Or the guys from your firm? He shrugged. They're friends. Your family. What does Brielle think about this? I asked carefully. His eyes slid away momentarily. She's adjusting to the idea, Norman. Okay, she had some concerns about disrupting tradition. But it's my side of the wedding party. My choice. His tone was firm in a way that suggested previous arguments. I hesitated. While I was touched by Norman's request, the last thing I wanted was to create additional tension with his future wife. Brielle and I had maintained a polite but distant relationship thus far, our interactions limited to group gatherings where we could orbit each other without direct collision. Are you sure about this? It's your wedding day. It should be perfect, not a source of conflict. It will be perfect because you'll be standing next to me, he insisted. Look, Brielle has 7 bridesmaids. 7. Women she's known for 5 minutes, but who have the right connections or Instagram followings. I just want the one person who's been there for me my entire life. Put that way, how could I refuse? Then I'd be honored. But, you get to tell Mom, he laughed. Already did. She says to make sure you wear something appropriate. As opposed to my usual monster truck rally t-shirts and ripped jeans to formal events. You know, Mom. He clinked his glass against mine. Thanks, Laurel. This means a lot to me. Later that night, as I drove home, I felt a mixture of emotions. Pride and love for my brother. Happiness at being included so significantly in his big day. but also a nagging concern that this decision would further complicate my already strained relationship with Brielle. I had no idea then just how prophetic that concern would prove to be, or how dramatically events would unfold 3 months later on what should have been the happiest day of my brother's life. Is this too much? I turned in front of the boutique mirror, examining the custom suit I'd selected for the wedding. The deep burgundy color contrasted nicely with the bridesmaids' blush dresses, according to the swatches Norman had provided. My friend Zoe, who'd accompanied me for moral support, gave an emphatic shake of her head. It's perfect. Professional, but unique. You look amazing. This suit had been a careful choice, feminine enough to avoid looking like I was trying to upstage the groom, distinctive enough to honor my role as best person, and elegant enough to satisfy my mother's definition of appropriate. Finding the right balance had taken 5 shopping trips and more anxiety than I cared to admit. Brielle won't hate it? I asked, unable to keep the edge of worry from my voice. Zoe's expression softened. If she hates this, the problem isn't the suit. That was precisely what I feared. In the 2 months since Norman had asked me to stand up for him, Brielle's adjustment to the idea had not progressed as he'd hoped. She'd excluded me from the bachelor-bachelorette weekend in wine country, claiming it was organized by couples. She'd forgotten to include me in the wedding party email thread about ceremony logistics. Most recently, I'd discovered I wasn't listed on the wedding website as part of the wedding party at all. Each time I'd mentioned these issues to Norman, he'd made excuses: oversight, miscommunication, website limitations, but I recognized the pattern. Brielle was sending a clear message about my role, regardless of Norman's wishes. I should just be grateful she hasn't banned me from the wedding entirely, I muttered, changing back into my regular clothes. Has Norman noticed any of this? Zoe asked. He notices, but he's in full conflict avoidance mode. You know how he gets when he's stressed, he just wants everyone to get along? It was a pattern established in childhood, when Norman would try to mediate between our arguing parents. I'd been the confrontational one, demanding honesty and clarity. He'd been the peacekeeper, willing to accept uncomfortable compromises for the sake of harmony. After purchasing the suit, we stopped for lunch at a cafe near the boutique. As we waited for our food, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Call me when you're alone. I excused myself and stepped outside. Mom? What's up? Laurel. Her voice had that carefully neutral tone she used when delivering potentially upsetting news. I've just had lunch with Brielle and her mother to discuss the rehearsal dinner. My stomach tightened. And she mentioned there's been a misunderstanding about the wedding party arrangement. What kind of misunderstanding? A slight pause. She seems to think you've agreed to a more traditional role. Not standing at the altar with Norman, but doing a reading during the ceremony instead. The sidewalk seemed to tilt beneath me. That's not what Norman and I agreed to. He wants me as his best person. I know, dear, and I explained that to her. But she was quite insistent that this new arrangement would be more ... appropriate. Anger flared, hot and sudden. Did Norman agree to this change? She said they discussed it. She seemed surprised when I mentioned you'd already purchased a suit to coordinate with the wedding party. Of course she was surprised, because she'd been systematically excluding me from all wedding communications where this would have been discussed. Mom, I need to talk to Norman directly about this. I thought you might. But Laurel ... Her voice softened. Try to be understanding. Wedding planning is stressful, and Brielle has a very specific vision for her special day. Her special day, I repeated. Not theirs? You know what I mean, just ... Tread carefully. Norman is caught in the middle here. After promising to keep her updated, I ended the call and returned to the table, where Zoe took one look at my face and said, "Uh-oh, what happened?" I explained the situation as our food arrived, my appetite gone. "That's outrageous," Zoe said, indignant on my behalf. "She can't just unilaterally change your role without even telling you." Apparently she can. I pushed a fry around my plate. "The question is whether Norman knew about this. You need to call him. Now." I shook my head. "Not on the phone. This needs to be face-to-face." That evening I drove to Norman's condo, rehearsing what I would say. I needed to be calm, clear, and direct. No accusations or ultimatums that would put him on the defensive. This was about understanding the truth, not winning an argument. Norman looked surprised when he opened the door. "Laurel? I didn't know you were coming over. We need to talk. Is Brielle here?" "No, she's at a final dress fitting with her bridesmaids. What's going on?" I stepped inside, noticing more changes to his space-new artwork, different throw pillows, a vase of fresh flowers on the coffee table. The condo was becoming less Norman, more Brielle with every visit. Mom told me about her lunch today, I said, getting straight to the point. About Brielle's claim that I'm doing a reading instead of being your best person? I need to know if you agreed to this change. Norman's face fell, confirming my suspicions before he even spoke. I was going to call you tonight, actually, to discuss some adjustments to the ceremony. Adjustments, I repeated, my heart sinking. So you did agree to this? He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture from childhood. It's complicated, Laurel. Brielle's family is very traditional. Her father has concerns about the optics, and her grandmother nearly had a heart attack when she heard a woman would be standing on the groom's side. And your wishes don't matter? What happened to it's my side of the wedding party, my choice? They do matter. But, marriages are about compromise. I took a deep breath. Compromise is when both people adjust their expectations. This is you giving in to what Brielle wants at your expense, and mine. The reading is still an important role, he argued weakly. And you'd still be at the rehearsal dinner and in family photos. Norman, be honest with me. Is this really what you want? Or are you just trying to keep the peace? His silence was answer enough. You need to stand up for yourself, I said finally, breaking the uncomfortable silence that had settled between us. This is your wedding too. Norman sank onto the couch, shoulders slumped in a posture so reminiscent of his teenage years that my anger softened despite myself. It's not that simple, Laurel. Seems pretty simple to me. You asked me to be your best person, I accepted. We both want that. Brielle doesn't, so she's changing the plan behind my back. She's under a lot of pressure, he said, though his tone lacked conviction. Her mother has been planning this wedding since Brielle was in kindergarten. The family has expectations. I sat beside him. And what about your expectations? Your wishes? Do they matter at all in this equation? He didn't answer immediately, staring at the geometric pattern on the new area rug. She says I don't understand because I don't come from the kind of social circle where these things matter. That having a female best man would make us look unconventional. Heaven forbid you look unconventional, I said, unable to keep the sarcasm from my voice. Norman, listen to yourself. Are these really the values you want guiding your marriage? Appearances over authenticity? Social expectations over personal choices? It's just one day, he argued half-heartedly. One ceremony, it's a pattern, I countered. And you know it. The redecorating of your condo without consulting you. The suggestions about changing your friend group. The comments about your career path. This isn't just about the wedding, and we both know it. His head snapped up. That's not fair. Brielle supports my work. As long as you're focusing on the high-end residential projects her father can connect you with, instead of the community-centered architecture you've always been passionate about. A flash of something, recognition, perhaps crossed his features before he shook his head. You've never given her a fair chance. From day one you decided she wasn't good enough. That's not true, and you know it. I've tried to connect with Brielle. She's the one who made it clear I wasn't welcome in your new life. And yet, here you are, trying to create problems between us just weeks before the wedding. His voice hardened, defense mechanism kicking in. I stood, frustration bubbling over. I'm trying to make sure my brother doesn't lose himself completely in a relationship that requires him to compromise everything he cares about. The front door opened, cutting off whatever Norman might have said next. Brielle stood in the entryway, still in her coat, keys dangling from her perfectly manicured fingers. Her expression shifted quickly from surprise to cold composure. Laurel, what an unexpected surprise. Her tone suggested it was neither welcome nor pleasant. Brielle, I nodded stiffly. I thought you were at a dress fitting. It finished early. She set her designer bag on the entry table and moved to Norman's side, a subtle but clear claiming of territory. Is everything all right? You seem agitated. Norman shot me a warning look, a silent plea to keep the peace before responding. We were just discussing some wedding details. The change in my role specifically, I added, ignoring his silent entreaty. The one I apparently agreed to without being consulted. Brielle's perfect smile didn't waver. There seems to be a misunderstanding. I thought Norman had already discussed the adjustment with you. Funny, that's what you told my mother too. Yet here we are. Laurel, Norman interjected. Let's not do this now. When should we do it, Norman? After the invitations have been reprinted. After I've returned the suit I just spent 3 hours selecting? After your fiancé has erased me from the ceremony entirely? Brielle's composure slipped momentarily, a flash of genuine anger breaking through her polished veneer. No one is erasing you. You're being offered a perfectly respectable role in the ceremony. A traditional role. One that doesn't turn our wedding into some progressive statement. It's not about making a statement, I countered. It's about Norman having the person who matters most to him standing beside him on an important day. Which is exactly what you're doing with your maid of honor. It's not the same thing. She turned to Norman. Please explain to your sister that we've already made this decision. The programs are being printed tomorrow. The way she emphasized we've made it clear who had actually made the decision. I looked at my brother, silently willing him to stand his ground for once. Norman glanced between us, conflict written in every line of his face. After what felt like an eternity, he sighed heavily. Laurel, I'm sorry. But Brielle's right. The arrangements have been made. I should have told you directly, and I apologize for that. Something cold and heavy settled in my chest. Disappointment. Yes, but also a profound sadness. This wasn't the brother I knew, the one who'd stood up to bullies for me in elementary school despite being younger and smaller, the one who'd driven 3 hours when my first serious boyfriend broke up with me, just to sit on my couch and eat ice cream in solidarity. I see. I picked up my purse. Well then, I guess I have a reading to prepare. Laurel, don't be like that, Norman said, standing to follow me toward the door. It's still an important role. You know what, Norman? Keep the reading. Give it to one of Brielle's cousins. I'm sure they'd be thrilled with a perfectly respectable role. Brielle stepped forward. You're overreacting. This is exactly the kind of drama I was hoping to avoid by making this change. I'm not the one creating drama, I said evenly. I'm just the one refusing to pretend this is okay. As I reached for the door handle, Norman caught my arm. You're still coming to the wedding, right? The worry in his voice was genuine. You're still going to be there? Despite everything, the thought of missing my brother's wedding caused a physical ache. I'll be there, I promised. But not as part of this charade. I'll be in the audience, supporting you the best way I can, by being authentic. Something you might want to try sometime. The hurt that flashed across his face made me regret the parting shot. But pride kept me from taking it back. I left without another word, the sound of Brielle's voice already rising behind the closed door, no doubt explaining to Norman why I was being unreasonable, difficult, selfish. As I drove home through evening traffic, tears blurred my vision enough that I had to pull over twice. It wasn't just about the wedding role, or even Brielle's manipulations. It was watching my brother, the person I'd protected and supported through our turbulent childhood willingly, submerge himself in a relationship that required him to be less than he was. What I couldn't know then was that the confrontation at Norman's condo was merely the opening act in a drama that would culminate at the altar itself, in a moment that would change all our lives in ways none of us could have anticipated. The day of Norman's wedding arrived with perfect weather, clear blue skies and gentle breezes, as if nature itself had received Brielle's detailed instructions. I sat in the back row of the church, wearing a simple navy dress instead of the burgundy suit now hanging unworn in my closet. My mother had called twice that morning, pleading with me to reconsider my position in the ceremony. He still wants you there, Laurel, just do the reading. For Norman. But I'd held firm. Some principles were worth standing for, even at personal cost. The church filled quickly, guests admiring the elaborate floral arrangements and string quartet playing softly in the corner. I recognized few faces, mostly Brielle's social circle, with a sprinkling of relatives and Norman's college friends. When the music changed and the ceremony began, I watched with a hollow ache as the wedding party processed. 7 bridesmaids in identical blush gowns, followed by 7 groomsmen, including 2 cousins Norman barely knew. Standing at the altar was Father Matheson, an elderly priest I'd never seen before, though Norman had mentioned being impressed by his traditional approach. Then came Norman, looking handsome but tense in his tailored tuxedo. Our eyes met briefly across the crowded church. I gave him a small, encouraging smile, which he returned with visible relief. Finally, the bridal march began. Brielle appeared at the back of the church, resplendent in a designer gown that probably cost more than my car. As she processed on her father's arm, she radiated triumph rather than joy. Father Matheson welcomed everyone and began the ceremony. Everything proceeded smoothly until he reached the part about supporting the couple's union. If anyone can show just cause why this couple cannot lawfully be joined together in matrimony, let them speak now or forever hold their peace. In the traditional pause that followed, Brielle suddenly turned, scanning the crowd until her eyes locked on mine. She shouldn't be here, she announced loudly, pointing directly at me. She's tried to sabotage our relationship from the beginning. She's not family." A collective gasp rippled through the church. Norman looked horrified, frozen in place as his bride continued her unexpected outburst. What happened next would be discussed in whispers at family gatherings for years to come.